Young man, your attire and demeanor in this courtroom are unacceptable. You need to show respect for these proceedings.
The first mistake he made was wearing the watch. The second was opening his mouth. The 19-year-old son of tech billionaire. Graham Prescott walks into Judge Judy's courtroom dressed like he's about to film a music video, not face a lawsuit. Custom Louis Vuitton tracksuit, $1,300. Limited edition Audemars Piguet on his wrist, worth more than most people's cars. Fresh Yeezys, diamond bracelet, designer shades pushed up on his head like a crown. He doesn't even make it a full minute before he looks straight at Judge Judy, smirks, and drops the line that will haunt him for the rest of his life. Just so you know, you can't put me in my place. He thinks that sentence makes him untouchable. What he doesn't know is that it just handed Judge Judy a loaded weapon, because what happens next isn't just a small claims ruling. It's a live dissection of arrogance. A slow, surgical demolition of a spoiled rich kid who has never in his life been told no and actually felt it, before we walk through how Judge Judy dismantles this boy's ego using nothing but paperwork, questions, and a voice that never once rises above calm. Hit subscribe if you like seeing entitlement collide with reality in real time. By the end of this story, you'll know exactly why some people don't need to be yelled at. They need to be exposed. Here's something to think about as we go in. When did confidence become so fragile it needs designer labels to hold it together? When did some kids start believing their parents' net worth is the same thing as their own character? Because what happens to Liam Prescott today proves one thing: the higher you stack your arrogance, the harder it is when the truth kicks it out from under you. Tuesday, 2:30 p.m., Los Angeles. The bailiff calls the case, Reyes versus Prescott. Case number 5931. On the plaintiff's side, Ethan Reyes stands at the podium in a borrowed gray suit that's half a size too big. 19. Community college. 2 jobs: flipping pizzas at a strip mall restaurant and stocking cages at a warehouse overnight. Caffeine and cheap sneakers have gotten him this far. This is his first time in a courtroom. You see it in the way he's gripping that worn-out folder to his chest, the way his free hand clutches the edge of the podium, like it's the only solid thing in the room. His voice, when he quietly answers the clerk's basic questions, shakes just enough to give him away. He's not here because he wants to be bold. He's here because he's out of options. 6 months ago, his best friend asked him for $3,000 and then disappeared. That was everything Ethan had. His emergency fund, his textbook money, 3 months cushion on a tiny studio apartment he shares with a roommate who's already carrying too much of the rent. One transfer wiped it all away. On the defendant's side, the space stays empty for minutes that feel longer than they are. Judge Judy's eyes flick once to the vacant spot, then to the clock. Anyone who's watched her for more than 5 minutes recognizes that look. Somebody's about to discover that time is not the only thing they're wasting. At 2:47. 17 minutes late, the back door swings open. Liam Prescott strolls in like there's a red carpet under his feet. He has one AirPod still in. He's chewing gum. His phone is lit up in his hand as he types, not even glancing toward the bench. The Cartier sunglasses stay perched on his head. He radiates that particular brand of confidence you only see in people who have never had to check a price tag in their lives. He doesn't look at Ethan, who's standing 15 feet away. He doesn't look at Judge Judy. No, sorry I'm late. No explanation. No awareness. He just leans an elbow on the defendant's podium with one hand still in his pocket, posture screaming that he's doing the show a favor by finally showing up. The air shifts. Judge Judy has seen every flavor of ego. Actors, athletes, scammers, people who think shouting louder makes them right. But with Liam, it's not just the clothes or the phones or the lateness. It's the absolute absence of fear. He walks like nothing in this room could possibly matter. Judge Judy watches him for a long, measured second, face like stone. Her voice, when it cuts through the whispers, is crisp and calm. Mr. Prescott, eyes up here. Right now. Liam doesn't even glance up. His thumbs are still moving over the screen. Hold up, he says, not bothering to aim his voice at the microphone. I'm in the middle of something important. The words hit the room like a slap. Ethan's head jerks. Eyes wide. The bailiff's eyebrows go up. An older woman in the gallery lets out a quiet, disbelieving laugh and mutters, "Oh boy." Judge Judy doesn't raise her volume. "Put the phone away," she says, each word clipped. "Or you can watch this hearing from a holding cell downstairs." That gets his attention. Liam looks up, actually looks at her, and barks a little laugh. "Relax, Judge," he says. "I'm just texting the guys that this whole thing is a joke." He drops the phone into his pocket with slow, performative care. The smirk stays. Judge Judy turns to Ethan, and her tone shifts warmer. "Steady, Mr. Reyes," she says. "Tell me why we're here." Ethan sucks in a breath that barely steadies him. Then starts. His voice is quiet, but his story isn't weak. "6 months ago," he says. "Liam called me Friday night around 11, panicking." He glances at Liam, who stares back like he's listening to a recap of somebody else's Netflix episode. "He said his McLaren died on the 101, Ethan continues. "He said his dad was in Dubai, that his cards weren't going through because of some fraud alert thing. He needed $3,000 cash for the repair, or they wouldn't touch his car, and the tow fees would keep adding up." Ethan's hand tightens on the folder. He said, "Bro, you're the only one I trust. I swear, the day my dad's back, you'll have all of it plus extra for helping me out." 2 weeks tops. They've been friends since 7th grade. Shared lunches. Video games. Late night talks about getting out of their small city and doing something that mattered. Ethan knows the Prescott house. He sat on that Italian leather couch, eating their catered food. Watch Liam's life happen on a different level. So Monday morning, Ethan walks into his tiny bank branch and closes out his savings. Every dollar. Then he stands next to a truck on the freeway shoulder, and Vimo's $3,000 to his best friend while that orange McLaren sits crooked on the flatbed like a wounded animal. He pulls out the printouts carefully now, text screenshots, bank statements, Venmo receipts. Ink slightly faded where his thumb has pressed them too many times. Rereading promises he wanted to believe. "I brought everything," he says. Judge Judy takes the pages. The camera zooms over her hand as she flips. "I got you, bro. 2 weeks. Asterisk. Next Friday for sure. They messed up the wires. Relax, my assistant is on it. You'll see it Monday." Then the tone changes. "You seriously still on this? Dude, it's nothing. Stop acting broke." Then finally, a gray block where Liam's name used to be. 3 months ago, Ethan says quietly. "He blocked me phone, Instagram, everything. He tried going to Liam's frat house at the University up the hill. Security laughed, told him no guests. He tried calling the Prescott Corporation office, asking through 3 layers of receptionists if someone would at least tell Liam to call him back. The last assistant I got through to said, "Mr. Prescott doesn't get involved in his son's personal debts," Ethan says. And that was it. $3,000 disappeared. So did his safety net. Asterisk, he had to drop a class because he couldn't buy the textbook. He took extra shifts, slept less, started failing quizzes he would normally ace. Rent got late notices. The spiral started and never really stopped. While Ethan relives all this, Liam barely glances at the papers. He looks at his watch instead. Shifts his weight. If boredom were a person, it would be standing exactly where he is. Judge Judy finishes reading, her expression blank. "Mr. Prescott," she says, "do you disagree that you received this money?" Liam shrugs, the apathy almost impressive. "I mean, I don't remember the exact amounts or whatever," he says. "But yeah, I guess something like that happened. It was like ages ago. People get hung up on small stuff." The phrase lands with a dull, ugly thud. "Small stuff." You can see Ethan's face change. It's not anger. It's that hollow, cold realization that the thing that kept you up at night was nothing more than background noise to the person who caused it. Judge Judy's eyes sharpen. "To you," she says slowly. $3,000 is small. Asterisk. Liam shifts. "Look, I'm not saying I don't owe him technically," he says. "But it's not like he's dying. He's still got a roof, still breathing. Waiting a bit shouldn't be this dramatic." The sound that goes through the gallery isn't quite a gasp. It's lower, darker, disgust. A man in a reflective work vest crosses his arms. The older woman in the front row stares at Liam like he's something she stepped in. Judge Judy lets the silence sit there. Lets Liam stand in what he just said. Then her voice. Calm again. Let's talk about why $3,000 feels like nothing to you. Mr. Prescott, Judge Judy says, still holding Ethan's papers. You mentioned earlier your family has Prescott on buildings. Tell me about that. If Liam could be more pleased to talk about something, he'd be glowing. Yeah, he says, straightening. Prescott Dynamics. It's my dad's company. AI, cloud stuff, whatever. We've got campuses in like 10 countries. Forbes did a cover on him. He's worth like $500 million. There's pure pride in his voice. Not earned pride. Borrowed pride. So you're set for life, Judy says, lightly echoing his earlier brag. Yeah, he says. Pretty much. What do you do? She asks, occupation. I'm in school, he replies, a little offended that she doesn't seem impressed. Computer science. Westbridge University. Who pays your Westbridge tuition? She asks. My dad, obviously, he says. That's what parents do. And your car? She asks. The McLaren, insurance, gas, designer clothing. This watch that looks like it could fund half this row's rent for a year. He shifts defensive now. My dad covers that? I do internships. I'm getting ready to join the company. So, she sums up, still in that almost gentle tone, you have no actual income. No job, no business, no paycheck that has your name on it. I'm a full-time student, he snaps. Students at real universities don't usually work like that. From the plaintiff's podium, Ethan speaks up in a voice that isn't trying to make a point, just telling the truth. I work 40 hours a week and go to school, he says. Full-time. Liam rolls his eyes, openly. At community college, he says. That's not the same grind as Westbridge. Come on, the reaction from the benches is instant. A collective shift. A low murmur. Someone mutters, wow. The mask has dropped completely now. Judge Judy's expression doesn't change much. Just a tiny narrowing of the eyes. The kind of adjustment a surgeon makes before making the incision. Mr. Prescott, she says. For the last 5 minutes, you've been giving us a tour of your father's achievements. His company. His money. His cars. His tuition payments. Everything you touch has someone else's sweat on it. You haven't earned $1 of it yourself. She pauses. You're not set for life, she says calmly. You're a walking trust fund with a bad attitude. The line lands. Hard dot color rises in Liam's neck. That's not fair, he protests. I'm doing the work now. School's not easy. Just because I'm not flipping burgers? No one said anything about burgers, Judy replies. We're talking about responsibility. Something that seems very allergic to your last name. She picks up a different folder from the pile on her bench. It's thicker, official, marked with colored flags. Since you brought up your future, she says, let's look at your preparation for it. You have a driver's license, correct? He blinks at the sudden pivot. Yeah, obviously. How many times has that license been suspended? She asks. His body language changes. That's not tied to this, he says quickly. This is a loan case. Why does that answer? She says, voice like steel wrapped in silk. How many suspensions? He stares at the wood grain of the podium. Twice, he mutters. Let me refresh your memory, she says, opening the file. First suspension at 17. Street racing down Mulholland. 120 miles an hour in a 45 zone. You remember that? He shrugs. Second one at 18, she continues. DUA, blood alcohol of 0.13. Well over the legal limit. Another car had to swerve into a barrier to avoid you. The room is utterly silent. On paper, she says. Those should have been a lot uglier for you. Recommended charges here, she taps the page, got mysteriously. Softened, reduced, diversion, deferred judgment. A lot of fancy words that mean one very simple thing. Daddy's lawyers went to work. She flips another page. 3 arrests total before you turn 19, she says. Each time somebody suited up to make sure nothing stuck. You floated out of every courtroom like nothing happened. His earlier swagger is gone. His hands grip the sides of the podium, knuckles pale. That has nothing to do with this, he insists. I didn't hit anybody. Those were just... She asks. Stupid mistakes, he says. Everyone messes up. Everyone, she agrees. Not everyone has the luxury of walking away from 3 mess-ups with a clean record and their father's legal team on speed dial. She sets the file down, and now here you are, she says softly. In my courtroom, after taking your best friend's entire savings, ghosting him, and calling $3,000 small, acting as if waiting for you while his life crumbles is no big deal. With respect, he says, voice strained, this is going sideways. This is supposed to be about a loan, not my whole life being dragged. Asterisk, she arches an eyebrow. When you walked in here today, she asks, what did you honestly think was going to happen? He hesitates. I figured. He swallows. We'd argue, you'd tell me to pay him back, maybe add some fees, I'd cut a check, end of story. With whose checkbook? She asks, yours? Or your father's? His cheeks burn. Does it matter? He snaps. It's all Prescott money in the end. It matters more than you've ever understood, she says. You stealing from him and then having Daddy wire the fix is not justice. It's housekeeping. You would leave this courtroom thinking, yet again, that money cancels character. She leans forward just a little, and given what you posted online before you came in, she adds, I think we should look very closely at how you see all of this. His head jerks. What I posted? She picks up her phone from the bench. You have a public TikTok account under the name Lem the Lion, correct? His stomach drops. That's private, he says weakly. Nothing you throw onto the internet is private, she replies. Especially when another user sends it directly to the court's tip line. The color drains from his face. Shall I rate it? She asks. Or would you like to? He doesn't answer Dot, so she does. She taps her screen once and reads, her voice flat, slicing each word from the air, heading into TV court. Some broke kid whining over lunch money. Judge thinks she can humiliate me. I've sat courtside at the finals and flown in private jets. This is community theater. Nobody in that room can touch me. Hashtag untouchable. Hashtag born winning. The gallery reacts like someone opened a window in a storm. A wave of soft ohs, a few disbelief laughs. A muttered idiot from the back. Ethan leans his head down for a second, just absorbing the fact that to Liam, his entire nightmare is lunch money. Judge Judy lets the noise die down. Nobody in that room can touch me, she repeats. Your words. Liam's voice is hoarse when he answers. It was a joke, he says. People post without thinking all the time. You can't judge me by a throwaway post. I'm not judging you by one post, she says. I'm judging you by the pattern it fits perfectly into. She sets the phone down. Let's talk about this idea that you can't be touched, she continues. That you are somehow above embarrassment. He shifts again, pride and panic wrestling under his skin. I've been around, he says stubbornly, almost to himself. My dad's taken me to places. I've met senators, CEOs. I've been in rooms way bigger than this one. Why would I be intimidated by small claims TV? She doesn't flinch. Embarrassment, she says, is not walking into a big room. It's not sitting in front of important people. Real embarrassment is much quieter and it lasts longer. She points lightly around the courtroom. Look, she says, really look. Every person here can see you as you are, not as your Instagram wants to be. Without your private jets. Without the lighting. Without the filters. Just your words, your choices, and the man-boy standing in them. She lets that description hang. You thought this was community theater, she continues. You thought you'd sit through an hour. Maybe roll your eyes a few times, then walk out. Hop in whatever luxury car you're rotating this month. And have your father's accountant make it all vanish. He doesn't deny it. But what you've actually done, she says, voice soft but unforgiving, is put your real self on stage. And there is nowhere to hide. She turns briefly toward Ethan. Double quotes Mr. Reyes. She asks, when you saw that clip, what did you feel? Ethan hesitates, then answers simply, stupid, he says. Forever thinking we were the same kind of people? Liam flinches, like the word hit his skin. Judge Judy looks back at him. Asterisk. You called him some broke kid, she says. What you fail to see is this. That broke kid is already more of a man than you are. He knows what it is to trade hours of his life for $50. He knows what it means for $3,000 to mean textbooks, rent, food. She taps the folder of his driving record again. You, she says, put other people in danger at 120 miles an hour. You drove drunk. You took his savings. Each time someone else absorbed the impact. Lawyers, parents, friends, you never felt it. You're overblowing this, he whispers. I said sorry. I'll pay him. You didn't say sorry, she counters. You said it's not a big deal. He's still breathing. That is not an apology. That is a confession. He stares at the bench like maybe if he looks hard enough, he'll wake up where this is just a bad dream. Look around again, she tells him. You are not untouchable. You are not impressive. Right now, in this moment, to this room. You are just a 19-year-old boy who steals from friends and calls their pain. Small stuff. She leans forward just enough to close the distance. That, she says, is humiliation. And you wrote the script yourself. He says nothing. Asterisk. His chest rises and falls a little quicker now. The outfit that was supposed to scream power suddenly looks like a costume. Judge Judy sits back. Now, she says, voice returning to pure business, we're going to talk about consequences. Not the kind your father funds. The kind that stick to you. The temperature in the room has dropped. Not literally. The air conditioner hums exactly the same as it did at 2:30, but everything feels colder. Judge. Judy flips back to Ethan's file. Mr. Reyes, she says, how much are you suing for? $3,000, he replies. The full amount I sent him. Any additional damages? She asks, late fees, interest? He shakes his head. I just want my money back, he says. I can handle the rest. That answer lands differently than anything Liam has said. Judy nods once. You've documented the transfer, she says. You've documented the agreement. You've documented his refusal. There is no question in my mind that this was a loan, not a gift. She turns to Liam. Do you have any legal defense, she asks, for why you shouldn't have to repay him? He opens his mouth, closes it. I was gonna, he says finally. It got away from me. Debts don't get away from you, she replies. Pets do, laundry does. Money you borrow and spend stays exactly where you put it, in your responsibility column. She picks up a clean sheet of paper, the judgment form. Here is what's going to happen, she says. I am granting judgment to the plaintiff for the full $3,000. Ethan's eyes close for a second in relief, but we're not stopping. There, she adds. Liam's head snaps up. Your conduct in this courtroom, she continues, has been so staggeringly disrespectful to the plaintiff. to this process, to every working person whose life is not cushioned by a billionaire's checkbook, that I am awarding the maximum figure allowed by this jurisdiction. She writes as she speaks. Total judgment, $5,000. Liam actually chokes on air. 5? He stammers. I don't have that on me. You won't be paying it on you, she says. You'll be paying it with something you've never used to get money before. He looks lost. What? Time, she says. An effort. He stares. You are ordered, she says, to satisfy this judgment within 90 days. And here is the part you are going to find very uncomfortable. That money will not come from your father. If I find out he paid this for you, I will treat it as non-payment and recommend further action. He looks like she just told him gravity stopped working. How am I supposed to do that? He bursts out. You can't, I have classes, welcome, she says dryly, to the reality most 19-year-olds already live in. She glances at Ethan. He goes to class and works 40 hours, she says. You can manage some version of that for 90 days. You are bright, you are capable, and you are long overdue to meet the concept of earning. Liam's jaw trembles. He's fighting not to cry. For the first time, his eyes actually flicker toward Ethan with something like, shame. I'll work, he says quietly. Whatever, I'll figure it out. You will, she agrees. Whether that means delivering pizzas next to him, bussing tables, stocking boxes, or tutoring kids who actually want to be in school. You will stand behind a counter or in a kitchen or on a loading dock and feel what it's like to give hours of your life in exchange for money you can't just call your father to get. She pauses. And when you send him that first payment, she adds, nodding toward Ethan, you will know in your bones what you stole from him when you treated his savings like a rounding error. Liam wipes at his face once, quickly, like he can erase the moisture before anyone notices. Judge Judy isn't done. In addition, she says, you will write a letter to Mr. Reyes. Both boys blink. This is not optional, she continues. Not a text. Not a DM, a handwritten letter delivered through the court, in which you say in full sentences what you did, what impact you now understand it had, and what you are doing to make it right. She looks at him squarely. If I see one line in there about small stuff or still breathing, she says, I will know this entire performance was just that, a performance. He nods slowly. I get it, he says. I'll write it. She studies him for a long beat, measuring whether he actually does. Then she turns to Ethan. Mr. Reyes. She says, this money won't erase what the last 6 months have been like. It won't give you back your sleep or your grades, but it will put you back at 0 instead of negative. And it will come from the only place it ever should have come from. Him. Ethan's voice breaks just a little. That's more than I thought I'd ever see, he says. Thank you. Don't thank me, she replies. Thank whoever inside his world decided to send this court the screenshots and the records they didn't want seen. Because someone in the Prescott orbit finally cared more about justice than about keeping him comfortable. Asterisk, she glances at Liam. Maybe, she says, you should thank them too. They might have just given you your first real chance to grow up. He nods silently. She looks back and forth between them one last time. You walked in here, she says to Liam, saying no judge could put you in your place. You were right in one way. I didn't need to. She gestures at the evidence, the screens, the faces. I just held up a mirror, she says. You did the rest. Her hand closes around the gavel. Character, she says, is worth more than any watch on your wrist, any logo on your chest, any number in your father's bank account. Respect is not billed to someone else's credit card. You cannot buy your way out of being a selfish person. She raises the gavel. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, she declares. Payable by the defendant personally. Within 90 days. The gavel comes down. One sharp crack. Liam walks out slower than he walked in. No more swagger. No more smirk. Just a 19-year-old who, for the first time in his life, has to figure out how to earn back something he thought he could always replace with money. If you were watching from home, ask yourself, what embarrassed him more, the number on the judgment sheet, or the moment the whole room finally saw past his last name? If you think people like him should face exactly this kind of reality check, you already know what to do.